Three-round mock draft time, AFC East edition. It's all brought to you by our friends over at Legendary GM. So here's what we did. Mike and I did our own three-round mocks, tried to keep it realistic, used our draft board, used it against what the consensus thinks these players are, where they might go. We're going division by division, starting in the AFC East. So let's take a look right now, Mike, starting with the Buffalo Bills. Your draft versus mine. Let's discuss the number 9 overall pick. I went with Ed Oliver, the Houston interior defensive lineman, and you went DK Metcalf from Ole Miss.
I just think they'd be hard-pressed to pass on DK Metcalf, considering if you would build the perfect wide receiver for Josh Allen, he would look a lot like DK Metcalf. Deep speed, big catch radius. That's the type of receiver Josh Allen needs, type of receiver that the Bills don't have, and that's DK Metcalf.
And I went with Oliver, not because I was listening to them yelling at me about drafting cornerbacks in the first round, but I do think Oliver would be a nice fit. They need any kind of disruption up front on that defensive line.
No more Kyle Williams.
Right, replace Kyle Williams, absolutely. If you look at the second round, we're both looking at Dalton Risner from Kansas State.
Yeah.
Look at that. So
easy pick there.
Yeah, it is an easy pick.
Board.
If he is available, perfect fit. If they need to play him at guard, that's fine. If they want to put him at right tackle, even with their signings this offseason, it's not going to stop us from taking a great player like Risner. And then we both went edge in the third round. I went Ja'Kai Polite, and you went Zach Allen from Boston College.
Yeah, I think both picks I could get on board with here. I went Zach Allen because I think he offers a little more as a run defender. I think he's safe in that regard. Someone to pair with, Jerry Hughes, across from Jerry Hughes, and very similar to Shaq Allen, or Shaq Lawson, in that regard.
Yeah, and if you look at Polite, he had the terrible pro day, terrible combine, but if you're looking in that third round range, I think you're talking about a guy that graded well, and I think that's where I would take him if you're looking for an edge defender, the way that board is going to fall. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. Again, in my mock draft, Dwayne Haskins happened to be available, and I went ahead and took a shot on him because the Dolphins do need a quarterback, and it's all about taking shots at the quarterback position. And I think that's a good range for Haskins. And you went Ed Oliver from Houston.
I went Ed Oliver. Again, if Ed Oliver is on the board there at 13 for them, they did not replace Ndamukong Suh well up front a season ago. That is a position that's still of need there. Ed Oliver fills his shoes.
Second round, if Jeffrey Simmons is there, I mean, if I'm any team, I'm taking him. But when I was playing Dolphins GM, he was there. I thought it made a ton of sense to take a shot on the Mississippi State interior D lineman, who's a top 10 player in this draft, but dealing with an injury.
Yeah, if you're a team building for 2020 and not necessarily 2019, he's a guy that you should take a good hard look at in the second round there if he's still on the board. I went Caleb McGarry, try to reproduce what you're getting from Jawan Williams. The Juwan James, the past few years. I think Caleb McGarry, he has his issues at right tackle, but I think having played the position can at least step in from day one and be better than what you have at the moment.
I think that's good value in round 2. And then round 3, we both went defensive line again. I like the fact that you doubled up here now on interior defensive lineman, adding the athletic Kalen Saunders. I went with the big horse on the outside, Anthony Nelson.
Yeah, Kalen Saunders, I think he's just one of the most underrated athletes at the defensive tackle position because his testing numbers aren't great, but his testing numbers aren't great compared to guys who are 290, 300. He's 324 pounds. I mean, this is a nose tackle who can penetrate into the backfield with the best of them. So if he's there in the third round, he's top 50 player on our board.
And Miami just needs all sorts of defensive talent, especially in the front seven. That's why I went with Nelson, a guy that can push the pocket as a pass rusher. Now a quick break to tell you about our friends over at Legendary GM, because the draft is coming up on April 25th, a special time for fans and a frustrating one for many hardcore fans who know the draft could have gone better for their team. Did you ever question what general managers draft, their actual selections? Have you ever said, I could have drafted better than this? Introducing Legendary GM, the first ever platform that allows you to draft for any pro football team, draft against your GM, draft against your friends to see who knows best. Legendary GM is simple, fun, and will give you bragging rights for years to come. And unlike traditional fantasy football, Legendary GM is easy to set up and manage. Draft players that your team really needs and get rewarded when your players perform during the season. Finally, there is an alternative to traditional fantasy football, so what are you waiting for? Prove you know better than the pros, the experts, and your friends. Go to legendarygm.com right now to sign up. That's legendarygm.com. It's a fun little experience there. You get to actually draft and see how well your players do. Let's move on to the rest of the AFC East, the New York Jets. Hey, we had another similarity here.
Yes.
Quinnen Williams, if he's available at 3, slam dunk pick for the Jets here?
Slam dunk pick in my mind. I get that you have Leonard Williams and Henry Anderson there on the interior, but a player like Quinnen Williams, Nick Bosa was off the board in these. Him and Nick Bosa, to me, the two safest prospects in this draft by far. You're getting a good player, little risk. Why not make that pick?
I would consider Jonah Williams there too, as well. I think there's some debate there with the Jets. Josh Allen should be in the mix. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go. In my draft, Josh Allen was off the board. I went with David Long. They don't have a second-round pick, but in the third round, David Long, a guy that has a first-round grade for us. If he's available in the third round, the Michigan cornerback, I think that's great value for the Jets. And you went Ohio State, Terry McLaurin at wide receiver.
Yeah, I love the Long pick, love his man skills. I think he could even be an upgrade in man coverage over Trumaine Johnson, or you could play big corner, small corner with those two. Terry McLaurin, deep speed, just another weapon down the field for Sam Darnold. I don't think you can have too many or add too many in this draft.
And then in round 3, it looks like I completely neglected Sam Darnold, and then you went ahead and helped him quite a bit. I went back to the defensive side of the ball, trying to fill that edge defender spot that's been a need for about 10 to 15 years with Max Crosby. Love his value in the third. You went with Deontay Johnson, doubling up at the receiver position for Darnold.
Like I said, can't give him too many weapons, can't take too many shots, throws at that dartboard to try to hit that bullseye at the receiver position to give Sam Darnold someone. Deontay Johnson, one of the most electric wide receivers in college football, brings us something in the punt return game, had 4 return touchdowns the past 2 seasons, and he is just, with the ball in his hands, electric, and one of the best route runners in this class.
All right, let's take a look at our Patriots drafts, which are eerily similar in a few different ways.
Yeah.
Well, because again, if we're going against the consensus board, there's a lot of people that we think are potential first-round picks that are going to fall into the second and third round, and that's what these drafts pretty much show. Our first 2 picks identical. Jerry Tillery, the interior D lineman from Notre Dame, maybe top 2 or 3 interior pass rusher in this entire draft, and then Andy Isabella, a guy that we're going to have a first-round grade on, but should be available in that second or third round range in real life.
Yeah, Isabella, I think a lot of people are penciling him to the Patriots. 5'9", could play the slot. Went to UMass. That one, slam dunk.
But that's
if he's
not
on
his
the
skill set. He's a deep threat.
He's
That's
a
the
deep
funny
threat,
part.
and that actually adds to, would replace Chris Hogan, what he could even upgrade from what he brought to that offense. Jerry Tillery, though, I think the reason we both selected him and why we were both so high on him is his positional versatility there in that Patriots scheme. He can play the 3 technique. He can play outside the tackle as a 5 technique. Patriots covet that. Patriots covet length that he brings to the table. So from those 2 perspectives, if he's there on the board, I would imagine that's going to be the pick for them.
The Patriots have a lot of draft capital, and one of their trademarks is essentially doubling up at certain positions. So I went ahead and doubled up at wide receiver, which is a big need for them, and you doubled up on the D-line. Ben Banigou, the edge defender out of TCU.
Yeah, Banigou brings a lot of athleticism to the table, and the fact that he can play that outside linebacker role where he drops into coverage sometimes and then rushes the passer at others. A lot in terms of what he can bring to the table as a stunter and a blitzer in that defense. A little bit of a work in progress as a pass rusher, but I think that's a place where they do a good job of developing pass rushers.
And I got Arcega-Whiteside, who maybe not be the best fit for Tom Brady because he's so much of a contested catch guy, but a different style receiver than what they got in Andy Isabella. Just love the value there. And again, the board's falling the right way. Will Greer, a guy that we love as a developmental prospect. If you can get him in the third round, fantastic. You got him later in the third round, so we're on the same page there. And then you got David Long in your draft, really mopping up here for the Patriots because we love him as a man coverage corner.
Again, I mentioned it with the Jets. If you play the matchups, a guy like David Long should be high on your board for what he can do covering smaller, faster, shiftier cornerbacks in man coverage. He's as good as it gets in this class in that regard. Now, he's not going to be able to probably hold up with the bigger, more physical receivers, but you have Stephon Gilmore on the other side capable of doing that. You get 2 guys in Long and Gilmore. That's going to be tough for opposing quarterbacks.
It's really perfect for the Patriots system. Amani Hooker, another versatile guy. That's the key word here. Safety that can play in the slot. I got him in the third round. And then I think tight end Josh Oliver, one of my favorite players in the draft, especially in that third round range. Fills another need for the Patriots, and I think it matches up with the value, and you decided to double up at receiver finally with Riley Ridley, the last of your third round picks.
Yeah, I love the Oliver pick. Led the NCAA tight ends in contested catches this past season. Can do a lot of some of the things that Gronk did. I'm not saying he's Gronk, but from that perspective of contested catches over the middle of the field, what Tom Brady likes to throw the tight ends.
Big catch radius.
That makes a lot of sense. Riley Ridley is just a fantastic route runner. And so from that perspective, I think he could fit in seamlessly to the Patriots offense.
So you have it. It's our AFC East head-to-head 3-round mock draft, all brought to you by our friends over at Legendary GM.